thank all parties for recognizing the importance of this issue to America's creative community. Whether it's Sony, BMI, Disney, or any of the multitude of companies that make up the fabric of our entertainment community, the works of these creative artists, the works that they've struggled to produce, the works that now have reached critical acclaim are not stolen and pirated.
In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 of those present having voted in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
There has been a lot of scrutiny under the United States copyright law. Ever since it was signed as the Copyright Act of 1790 under President Washington, copyright has been a driving force to giving creators exclusive rights to protect and distribute their intellectual property for a certain amount of time. After those years passed, that property would enter under the public domain, or a state in which the creative work is free for anyone to use. Many classic stories and characters that you most likely read in school are now in the public domain. Huckleberry Finn, Sherlock Holmes, Wizard of Oz, and many others. However, the Walt Disney Company hasn't been too keen on letting their original characters into the public domain. The Walt Disney Company has been known to dabble in how modern copyright has been shaped in the United States. In order to understand how this happened, we need to travel back to the 1780s in the newly formed United States of America. The year is 1787, 11 years after the United States gained independence from the imperialist British after the Revolutionary War. At this time, Congress was going through with implementing their own constitution, or the supreme law of the United States. Under Article 1, Section 8, it states that Congress shall have power to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to respective writings and discoveries. 2 years later, Congress implemented the Copyright Act of 1790, which granted authors the right to print, reprint, or publish their work for a period of 14 years, and to renew for another 14 years, only if the creator was alive by the end of the 14-year term. It was meant to advance science and arts from a provided monopoly from Congress. It wasn't until 1831 when it was doubled to 28 years with a 14-year renewal plan. Again in 1909 when the renewal plan doubled to 28 years with the original continued registration plan. However, 20 years from then, the United States will witness one of the biggest factors in shaping what copyright law would eventually become. Spearheaded by Walter Elias Disney, the Disney Company started from a small studio in Kansas City named Laugh-O-Gram Studios. Universal Pictures commissioned Disney and his assistant Albie Works to create a new animal cartoon character for Universal. After losing its flagship icon Oswald the Lucky Rabbit to Universal Pictures, Walt had a vision while transporting from New York to California. During this trip, he doodled up the first ever drawing of Mickey Mouse.
I was in New York at the time. I'd been producing a series of pictures for a company there. They were about a rabbit called Oswald. But I lost that. They took it away from me, so I was all alone and had nothing. And Mrs. Disney and I were coming back from New York on the train, and I had to have something. I said, by the time I get to Hollywood, I must have something to, I can't tell them I've lost Oswald. So I had this mouse in the back of my head, because a mouse is a sort of a sympathetic character, in spite of the fact that everybody's frightened of a mouse, including myself.
In 1928, Mickey Mouse appeared in his first animated shorts, Playing Crazy and Steamboat Willie. Under the 1909 copyright law of 28 years with a 20-year renewal plan, Mickey Mouse's copyright would expire in 1984. From there, Disney was on top of the world. They were dominating cinema, TV, merchandising, amusement parks, and anything you could possibly imagine. Then, everything changed after the loss of its creator, Walt Disney, in 1966. The Disney Company was left at a standstill for a little while. Without their creator, the Disney Company started worrying about the rights of Mickey Mouse. His copyright would expire in 1984, and the character was only growing in popularity. In 1976, the Copyright Act of 1976 extended the amount of years a copyright can hold from the life of the author, plus 50 extra years. Under this new law, Mickey Mouse will be protected until 2003. The bill also introduced the doctrine of fair use, which gives anyone the right to use copyrighted content in a transformative nature. Disney had control of Mickey for a little while longer. A few years later, however, an ex-Paramount CEO would rise to the power of the Disney Company and make things a little bit awkward.
Tonight you're going to see some outstanding performances by many of your favorite Disney characters. They co-star in the adaptation of a Charles Dickens classic. We call it Mickey's Christmas Carol. Once again, we meet Ebenezer Scrooge, the lonely old miser who had little time for Christmas cheer. That is, of course, until he meets up with Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and a few Christmas ghosts.
Michael, I just thought of something. It doesn't snow in Southern California.
Mickey, this is Hollywood.
Oh, of course. Hi, everybody. Go out there. Bye.
In 1984, Roy E. Disney, Walt's nephew, brought in Paramount CEO Michael Eisner and Warner Brothers chief Frank Wells to take over the Walt Disney Company. The company witnessed a renaissance from classics like Aladdin, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Little Mermaid, giving Disney the spotlight once again. However, in the late 1990s, reports started to come out about Disney donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to many of the Copyright Term Extension Act sponsors, allegedly $800,000. Michael Eisner was also spotted at many offices in Washington. One such example was reported by CNN in 1998. It states that Walt Disney Company chairman Michael D. Eisner dropped in for an unpublicized chat with Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott. At the top of his list, that includes tax breaks, visas for animal trainers, and transportation to Disney theme parks, was a request for Congress to help his company's highest priority, H.R. 2589, a bill to extend the soon-to-expire copyright on Mickey Mouse, Disney's most precious asset. He was very much interested in seeing the copyright bill. Lott said after a brief conversation, "It's being considered. I think we need to do it." I agree with him. 2 months later, the Senate and the House passed the Copyright Term Extension Act, also known as the Sonny Bono Act. It was later signed into law by President Clinton on October 27, 1998. The 1998 Act extended these terms to life of the author plus 70 years and for works of corporate authorship to 120 years after creation or 95 years after publication. So under this new law, Mickey Mouse's copyright would expire in 2023. As of this recording, there hasn't been any public announcement over the copyright of Mickey Mouse, especially since it'll be 6 years until the Mouse's copyright runs out. What I have shown you is a definitive example of cultural imperialism, or the maintenance of unequal relationships between civilizations, favoring the more powerful civilization, or in this case, Disney. Disney has shown their ability to shut down any sort of riling up the public ever since lobbying Congress, such as the case with underground cartoonist Dan O'Neill. In the late 1970s, O'Neill started a group named the Air Pirates, who published extremely raunchy, satirical Mickey Mouse cartoons as a means to criticize Disney's conformist hypocrisy. Disney then slammed him with a copyright infringement suit, and eventually won a settlement of nearly $200,000.
We went farther than we were supposed to, and this is the real Mickey Mouse, because they said so right away in court. They busted us and said, and charged me $1,200,000, saying that's the real Mickey Mouse. I said it was a parody. They said, no, it's real. I said, no, it's a parody. They said, no, it's real. Okay, bust me. So they did. Bang, $1,200,000. It just takes the old guys a long time. Don't ever put your fortunes in the hands of the law. You couldn't criticize anybody, because if you drew a mouse and it didn't look like what, the so-called parody version, parody had been weakened to the point where it loses its shock. If I want to draw Ronald Reagan and I'm forced to draw somebody that looks like something else, well, then it's not him. So nobody gets the joke. Who's that guy that almost looks like somebody I know, and what's he saying? The joke just goes to pieces. You get the exact image and you turn it inside out, 100%, 180 degrees, turn it inside out, wow.
To add insult to injury, most of Disney's library is based on work that is no longer copyrighted. Authors like Shakespeare, the Brothers Grimm, Charles Dickens, and many others have gotten their stories used by Disney themselves for their films, which have amassed billions of dollars for the company. At the same time, donating millions of dollars a year to Congress, pressuring them to extend copyright deadlines so they wouldn't lose their most popular character. I can understand being worried over losing a character who is worth $3 billion, but Disney does that while embracing the public domain for their fairy tales and princesses. In conclusion, Disney has become one of the biggest driving forces behind how copyright is shaped in the modern day. From being a protection to authors to make money and hold rights to their creations for only 20 years at max, to a system that holds properties over people's heads for more than a century. In the words of Walt Disney, it was started by a mouse.